For all your real estate, financing, and investing questions, call the show's off-air number and speak with Mike Gray directly. 530-431-8586. That's 530-431-8586. Now, the Golden State Report with Mike, Amy, and Dave.
Welcome back, everybody. You are listening to the Golden State Report, heard every weekend on AM 1380. I'm Mike Gray with Morris Williams Realty, along with David Stone from the Sierra Consulting Firm.
Great to be with you guys.
And Amy Debusk from American Pacific Mortgage.
Glad to be here.
Well, during the last couple of weeks, on this last segment, we've been talking about the same thing, and I'm going to bring that topic back up again, is that real estate practices are changing come August 17th. Most good realtors have already implemented these forms and these new standards of practice, and just wanted to take some time to answer any questions either you two might have, but basically, you know, we have to be much more transparent, and we are forced. Now, I've always had these conversations with my buyers or sellers, but now agents, because of the forms, are being forced to have conversations about who pays what commissions in any real estate transaction. One of the first forms that all buyers are going to see beginning mid-August, I'm using the forms already, but by mid-August it's going to be required, is that before I can show anybody or any realtor in the state of California can show any potential buyer a home, they're going to have to sign a form that explains how that realtor is going to be paid.
So in the past, it was just kind of a
verbal thing, and
everybody knew.
Yeah, and I had that conversation a little bit later on in the process of buying a home. Never the very first time, but let's say somebody calls from the radio show. They've listened to me for the last decade. I've been on the radio for about a decade.
Right.
They're first-time home buyers. I get them qualified through Amy, and they say a house I want to go look at. Before we can unlock that door, I have to have them sign a form that I have explained to them how I'm going to be paid. And so.
Yep, I had my first pre-approved buyer have his consultation with his realtor a couple days ago, and so I called him the day after because I knew he was signing that form, and I called him and I said, hey, how did it go, and how was the appointment? Do you understand the form? And he said, yeah. He said, I think that they should have done this a long time ago. It needs to be more formal with buyers. There needs to be something in writing. I said, well said.
Yeah.
And again, I've always said, communication is always the key in whoever I represent, whether I represent a seller or a buyer, making sure that they understand what's happening every step of the way. And so this isn't necessarily new. I've had these conversations. I've just never had them first thing.
And you've never had it never had it in writing, but there's always been a buyer broker.
Yeah, and I just haven't used the buyer broker representation forms.
Right.
And but I build a lot of trust with my clients, and all the disclosures are there, and you're gonna see them sooner or later. Now you're just going to see them soon. You're going to see them first thing.
Before you look at any house.
We'll have a conversation. Before I can unlock a door, we're having this conversation, and you're signing this form.
I have a question. So let's say that this client decided 2 weeks from now, I don't like this realtor. I don't want to use this realtor. I want to use a different realtor.
Yes.
So are they locked into the contract with the realtor?
It depends upon how that form is spelled out. Some of the forms can specify a specific address, and they're locked into that realtor for that home for a specific amount of time.
How long?
I think this, again, all these are all new forms, and you can change any form by filling in the.
Anything's changeable,
but I think
everything's up for negotiation.
Yeah, and I could be wrong on this, but I think it's a 30-day minimum.
Okay.
So let's say that you called me up and you wanted to see 123 Main Street.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to have a form saying, all right, if you buy this house at 123 Main Street.
I love that house on 123 Main Street.
And for the next 30 days, if you buy that house, I am your realtor, and this is how I get paid.
Well, and you and I have talked, and you said that because you have to do this ahead of time before you even really have built that trust, that you're only going to do it for a specific address
yes.
for the first
30 days.
That
and then I'll also give you my word that if I show you 123 Main Street and 2 weeks later you want to buy it but you don't want to use me, here's the cancellation form.
Sure.
Because my business is about relationships.
Right.
And if I haven't earned your trust, and you have somebody else who has earned your trust, they should represent you. Now, that's how I choose to do my business, all right? Because to me, real estate's always been about relationships and earning your trust, but with the expertise and the experience and the type of communication I bring to the table. I've been doing this for over 2 decades, and I've never had anybody cancel on me or choose to use a different realtor. Now, I have chosen to let people go.
Sure.
But I have never had anybody, and maybe with all these new forms, perhaps that will happen in the future. And, you have that right to use whoever you need. I'm never going to hold you to something unless I think you're being dishonest and trying to pull a quick one. And then I'll probably still let you go because I don't want to deal with the hassle of trying to correct you.
Right.
To be honest, you know what? If you're going to be that kind of a person, perhaps it's better you find a different realtor anyway. Life's too short. So.
Well, I, have really strong beliefs about dual agency, and, say a listing agent who represents both the buyer and the seller.
That's dual agency, and it's legal in the state of California.
And I don't agree with it. I do not believe that a human can have two people's best interest at heart, financial best interest at heart, that have opposing
and
positions.
I agree with you 100%. I've done dual agency maybe 4 or 5 times in 20-some years, and two things have to happen. First, I talk to the sellers and saying, the buyers that wants me to represent them, are you okay with that? Seller has to agree. Then I go to the buyers saying, okay, now the seller's going to let me represent them and you. Two things have to happen. There can be no negotiation on the price and no negotiation on the repairs, because I have a fiduciary responsibility to the seller. Now, I can help you do the contracts and everything, but as soon as there's a negotiation on anything financial, all right, then I represent the seller, and you have to find a different agent. And so, I've, like, for example, had a seller wanted to sell, and I had one of my investors wanted to buy, and said, I only want to use you, Mike. I only trust you. And the seller was okay with it. There was no discussion on the price. There was no discussion on the repairs. Then I have done dual agency twice, but it is a trap that is. I can tell you this: if there is litigation after the point of sale, and we are in a very litigious state, and one of the attorneys realizes that the seller, one agent represented both parties, that attorney is just smiling from ear to ear.
Yeah.
Yep,
it is such a legal trap.
Mike, I'm in that situation right now. Make it short. I know we don't have much time, but I had clients come to me already in contract. They weren't even pre-approved yet. And now fast forward, the contract's canceled and we're in arbitration.
Oh, yeah, it's a mess. It's a mess. Well, if you have any questions about the new rules, give me a call. I'd be more than willing to sit and talk to you about it. 530-431-8586. I am running out of time, but I am really grateful that you have chosen to listen this week. I hope that you have a wonderful week, and perhaps tune in again next weekend.
Me and you.